and welcome to Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. And here on Spotlight, we always do our very best to bring to you persons who are doing things that are transforming our society in the direction of light. Now, talk about transformation. And one of the things that we struggle with in one level or other, in one type or other, is addiction. And addiction is nothing strange to us because either you have been through it or are in it, your person next to you, a family member, a friend, a workmate. I mean, addiction is something that is close to all of us. That's how prevalent it is. And that's why it's very important for us to get perspectives on its nature and to find ways in which we can prevent it, and also, if we are in it, how to actually cure it. And we are so delighted on this edition of Spotlight to have with us a gentleman who is very committed to the transformation of people who are in addiction, and has been transformed himself from a situation of addiction. And therefore, on Spotlight, we are talking about alcohol addiction, and we are glad to welcome Boniface Dirango, who is the chair of Alcohol Prevention, Addiction and Rehabilitation Association of Kenya, that is APAC. And he's here with us to shed perspectives that you want to catch. And therefore, stay with us here on Spotlight. Do engage us on 22232. Our text message line will be glad to have you as part of this conversation. Boniface.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Happy to see you.
Good to see you too, Reverend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Keeping all right?
I'm very good.
Yeah. You look good.
Thank you.
The smile is as good as the old time.
Oh, yeah?
I do remember you.
Yeah.
The soccer player.
Yes.
When you were in college.
Oh,
and, Once you got to the field, we knew that some good news is about to happen.
Oh, good.
It's good to see you. Welcome to
Thank you so much
TV for the very first time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And we are glad that...
some people say I swallowed the ball.
Oh. I think it's something that you still look good.
Yeah, thank you.
You still look good, man. You still look good.
Thank you, Reverend.
You still look good, and we're happy to have you here and specifically engage on that subject of alcohol addiction.
Yes.
We start with you.
Yes.
And I must say congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And maybe here we can say praise the Lord.
Amen.
Because it's been 20 years.
Yes.
You've been clean 20 years.
Yes.
And that's a big deal.
Yes, it is.
It's definitely a big deal.
Yes, it is.
And I just want to ask you, what does this, 20 years clean, mean to you?
Oh, it means the world to me. There was a time, Reverend, I couldn't make a day clean. I couldn't get to 10 a.m. Without having used something. And I remember how bad it had got. In fact, if it wasn't for you, your classmates and yourself and that group that got together to send me to rehab about 20 years ago, I was really a gone case. It's been also a marvelous journey to see, and I remember very well how I got that calling. One day, I was walking in the streets of Nairobi. I had lost jobs. My family had left me. It was difficult to live with a drug addict, injecting heroin user. So, as it's always for most addicts, you end up, away from home. And I was living in the streets. And I remember asking God that day very clearly that there has to be a purpose why I was going through this. There had to be a reason why I was going through this. Why I didn't want to use, but yet I found myself using. Is it Paul who says somewhere that I don't want to do, and yes, I'm forced to?
Yes, the things I want to do,
yes, I
don't do, and the things I don't want to do, I do. Yeah.
I got to a place where I was sure that I wanted to quit, but I couldn't stop myself. And I think it's by grace, God's grace, by the support of people and friends, by the support of a rehab center I went to, by support of 12-step programs that I really value, that I'm clean now for 20 years and have helped thousands of people find recovery. And I'm not alone in this. We're quite a number of people who are like me, and many others, especially those who don't even have a problem but choose to work in this field, to support people in this field who have an alcohol drug problem, find the solutions. I'm excited about it. It's 20 years. We have more than 200 rehabs now across the country. As an association, we're proud of the work we're doing, helping close to about 15,000 people every year get help.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, that's it sounds to me like salvation.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
The same way sometimes we say, I was born again on this day,
Yes.
this month,
Yes.
you know, in this place.
Yes.
Sounds like coming clean.
Yes.
It's a similar kind of process
Oh, yes.
of redemption.
Yes.
Now, why are these dates so important to you?
Oh, you see, if you forget, in fact, a friend of mine tells me, or they have a quote that if you don't know how long you are clean, if you can't remember when you are clean, then you probably aren't. You probably aren't. It is that important because, like I remember during my time when I got clean, it's that time where Kibaki had just got to be president. I was only 3 weeks into his presidency, and there was this air of optimism. And as I was sitting there waiting for you, I read that hope. There was big, in fact, Kenyans, I thought at the time were worldview about people. We were rated one of the most hopeful people in the world. There was a lot of hope in there. And I'm glad to be here to share with Hope TV exactly that hope. It felt really like there was time. If Kenya could change, then I could. If all the changes I was seeing happening, I could translate it to me. And that is how I started my journey.
Isn't it amazing how your optimism or your hope was tied to a political transition, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or part of it, right?
Yeah.
And you felt that there's so much hope, and you don't want to miss out on it.
Yes.
That's interesting when you think about that. And you know, one of the things you've mentioned that on your journey to recovery is that at some point you wanted to stop, but you couldn't.
Yes.
Now, tell us about that whole experience of wanting to break free, but yet the shackles are so real. Just that tension and that space of wanting yet you're denied. You know, wanting and yet not being able. How is that experience?
I have two things that come to mind the moment you ask me that question. One is Psalms 38. Psalms 38. If I had the Bible now, I could read it for you, because I remember that King David talks about how he does things he doesn't want to do. And it was during that moment of real anguish, because, you know, addiction and heroin addiction, it's not only physically addictive, it is mentally a mental anguish and a spiritual, a combination of this body, mind, and spirit. Pain, real pain, physical and mental and spiritual, because you know that you have brought this to yourself by your choices. I didn't know that. I knew that I had called upon this by my choices. So I was suffering double. Yes. I remember that. I remember watching on my first day clean, watching T.D. Jakes. T.D. Jakes was
the man.
Yeah.
Most of us have been influenced in one way or other.
Yes, I used to watch him even when I was using drugs. Yes, I would watch T.D. Jakes and cry and listen to him, and I was really seeking help. The truth is, I was ready for help for a very long time, for about 6 years before I actually got it. I tried a lot of stuff to get clean. And in this particular day, he was talking about or guys who have the minds are working, it's epileptic, but they can't, what the brain is telling the body to do, the body can't do. So the people who have this kind of disease, they have a working mind. You tell yourself, move your right hand, but the hand can't move. So the mind is in turmoil because the instructions from the brain are not followed by the body.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really identify with that because I personally had got myself into a place that was like that cry of the son of the guy who left home.
The prodigal.
The prodigal son,
Yeah.
yes. So I had been brought up in a Christian family, you know, I had been brought up by missionaries myself, so I was very familiar even with this church. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that you came here in your early life.
Yes, I used to come here with my missionary parents. So I was familiar with Dennis White, I was familiar with the Bible, I was familiar with what is right and what is wrong. I was really familiar. Yet somehow I had progressed over time, making the wrong choices and catapulting myself all the way to heroin addiction.
Okay.
And that was very heavy on me because I knew that I had made mistakes. I was a sinner, and my sins were actually weighing down heavy on me. Yeah, and I couldn't stop. Yeah, once I was in that state, I couldn't stop.
Yeah, and when we talk about this being a very gracious experience of recovery and being clean, is because we know of people who have the will. I mean, they have the desire.
Yes.
And they will tell you that I'm in this, drug situation, but I am trying, but I have not made it. And I have tried many times, I'm not making it. And so we have people in a situation where they don't quite break through, right?
Yeah. And I thank you for raising that, because there could be some people listening to me and thinking, oh yeah, you got 20 years, good for you, but I can't. I struggled for 6 good years, making it 6 months clean, falling down again, making 10 months going back. So I know the challenges how it would look to others, that you really don't want to get clean. But that's not true. You know that you want to get clean. So the thing is, we don't give up.
Okay.
As long as there is life, we just don't give up. We hope. Yeah? We keep up the hope. We keep trying. And when we fall down, we'll dust ourselves up and walk again and try again.
Yeah.
That is the only way we will make it. And I also request families not to give up on
Okay,
children.
all right.
We don't give up on people. As long as there's life, there's hope.
Okay, because you never know the rising that will see you walk,
yes,
right?
Yes.
There's a rise you can do, you fall, but don't condemn yourself to falling. Rise again, because you never quite know which one will see you actually just walk away. And that's very, very hopeful.
In fact, the first time I was thinking about, I thought of a mosaic, the different broken pieces of stuff that I thought, no, I would want my life is really made of all those broken attempts. My foundation is made of all the previous efforts, all the many mistakes I have done have really turned out to be the foundation upon which I stand.
A real story of not giving up.
Oh yes.
Failing many times, but not giving up.
Yes.
Now, maybe you can just tell us from your experience.
Yes.
Because sometimes when you say that you knew that you had something to do with your situation, with your bad situation. And I'm trying to imagine about your people who would start alcohol maybe with the thought that they're in control, that alcohol can take them to the place where they themselves want to go. But they end up realizing that alcohol is more than just what they think, right? They think they are in control, but at some point they end up just being out of control. Maybe you can tell us, your experience. At what point do you say you actually slipped off?
Yeah. Oh, thanks for that. And by the way, we take the opportunity to clarify a little bit on that, because sometimes we underrate alcohol. We underrate alcohol. It has become very acceptable to try alcohol at very early ages. And I think the World Health Organization is now really clamping down to reset these attitudes, because it looked like they have been passed over in the generations to make alcohol look harmless. But in real terms, alcohol looks harmless, yet it is a very serious silent killer. For young people, that's most likely the reason why young people would get into accidents, get violent, experience a traumatic event. So for myself, I remember the first time I tasted alcohol, I was in Form 2. And this was, in retrospect, out of peer pressure from a person that I valued a lot. As you said, I used to play football. This guy was older than I was. And he thought he's really adopting me as his younger brother to support me. But in real terms, he was misleading. So the first alcohol I had, the first mirror I touched, first cigarette I had was passed on to me by the same person, same older person who influenced. And he was a star. I used to play for Konya Breweries at the time. I looked up to him. I thought I wanted to be what he is in terms of football and soccer. But in retrospect, I think he was a bad example and a peer. He gave me my first shot of heroin 10 years later. It's not to blame him, but it's in hindsight on how that age group, people have pressure from people that they value in terms of their friendships, in terms of their admiration, in terms of the group dynamics of that age group. So I that is the first time I ever tasted alcohol. It didn't look so bad because it was at Hilton, I thought. It was just 2 glasses of beer, and it felt harmless. But it's the same day that I also smoked a cigarette. Yeah? And then, of course, when I go back to school, I would never do anything like that. I came from a really good school that's very strict, so I was lucky that I was in a boarding school. So boarding school would keep me away from this. Up until the university, when I met you at the university, I think in my first year, I was really badly off. But the cold and the smoking and the drinking really caught up with me. It's a progression. No one starts off in the streets using drugs. No. It is a progression. Start off with gateway drugs, like we call them, a cigarette, a harmless, a wine, and it grows on you. And the tolerance levels starts to increase. And the quantities, you have to take more to feel the same effect you felt. So the body becomes accustomed. By the time we were leaving the university, I don't know whether you could have noticed that I had already developed a problem. It was evident from my grades to my inability to play a sport that I really loved, from my relationships and who my friends were, to really dysfunctional behavior. It's a really progressive thing. And it might be very helpful for younger people who are listening to know, our parents to know a little bit that it's best to delay the orientation of drink. It affects the growth of the brain. The brain grows up until when we are 24. It's best that we, as much as possible, in our traditional African setting, men were not expected, boys were not expected to drink. Even young warriors were never. The only time anyone was allowed to have a drink was probably when your children have gone through circumcision and are becoming warriors. Yeah?
It was event-oriented.
It was event-oriented and reserved only for the elder people. Here in Kenya, the new world system, you find we have like 18. 18 is too young for people to indulge with alcohol.
We'll talk about the contemporary culture in a short while, and how that has eased the access to this pandemic, let me call it that. But let's just still look back a little bit and see if you remember or you can isolate one particular harm that addiction did to you that you still recall to this day. That this episode, this thing happened that I really feel bad about, and it happened because of my addiction. When you look back.
Yeah, that one feels heavy. The mother of my son, she's a person that was a really good person in my life. It's a person I really thought I would marry. And addiction really took a toll on my life with her. I remember what a jerk I became. I became something else. I can't believe I would never live with that kind of person myself now. Because addiction had become a slave of addiction. And a kind of how would I say it? A kind of dragged her through this. She didn't deserve it. She didn't deserve anything like that. Just to drag somebody through the life of a heroin addict it's something I would never wish my worst enemy. Because it's heart-wrenching. It is sad to see, yet there's nothing they can do other than walk away. I walked out, 3 weeks to my wedding, I walked out. I had a relapse. I had arranged everything. And I had a relapse and I couldn't go ahead with it. So that was, so and it has affected my son. I could tell that this is something. If I wish I didn't have to be, even if I was using, I didn't have to hurt them like I did. Yes.
You lost a key relationship that you still to this day feel that was something that you really regret. And I mean, it's even from your eyes, I can tell that, and from your voice that it still hurts you.
Yes, it does.
And just again looking back now, where you are at now, how your story of addiction has become now a story of salvation for many. Right? Your story has become now your passion. It's almost like now you've gotten a new addiction of helping people with addiction. And maybe you can tell us about how that process took place, how you got that moment of thinking, I don't just want to be clean, I want to help others now get clean as well. I mean, that epiphany, that moment of saying, I don't just want to be saved, I want to save others. Just about that, let's call it a conversion moment. How a Damascus moment. How did it happen? If you can recall.
Yes, I really do recall that. One day, I had really been looking for money for a whole day up until late in the evening. I couldn't get any money. Everything was just going haywire.
Were you clean now, or you were still?
No, I was using.
You were using.
Yes. And I dared God. I told God, you see, I have struggled. I've done if you are there and you listen, if you are there and you listen, help me now. Just help me get get some little money to use because you know that there must be a purpose for this, that I'm being prepared to help other people. It just, I've never forgotten that day. I was still using drugs, and I begged God. And I turned on the left side like this, and I met somebody who gave me money. It didn't even take 30 seconds. I cried and I went and bought the drugs and used the drugs. I've never forgotten that. And the moment I got clean, I started helping other people. From day 2, I would walk into a meeting, help people set up, I'd meet somebody who we are using, take them to a meeting. I started the Halfway House mainly from that. And started the rehabs from that.
Okay.
To this day, I've picked people from the street. I just look at you, I see, this one needs help. Tell you, okay, let's go.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
I mean, how God works in strange places.
Yes.
Sometimes in places where you don't expect him to be.
Yes.
For instance, if I met you in the city and I could tell that you are abusing drugs,
yes.
I can almost say that God is not working here,
Yes.
But you are conversing with God.
Yes.
You are daring God.
Oh, yes.
And then God does a miracle for you.
Yes.
And you go ahead and buy drugs.
Yes.
And I mean, how do you, in terms of God and you, and how does that come? How do you understand
Truly,
that?
you would be shocked the kind of thing I saw.
Yeah.
Prayers, the kind of prayers I was, at the time that I was living in the street, I was at the time I was living with street boys in the tombs of town. And those guys pray before they go. They would pray and get into a spiritual frenzy and really pray to God that today they not get mob justice. They do. They really do. I saw these people genuinely, and they help each other. They support each other. Even in those dark holes. People still believe in God.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing that even in the dark,
Yes.
we call it in the dark,
Yes.
that people still find the need for God.
Yes.
You know you're on the wrong side,
Yes.
really.
Yes.
But you still feel that, I think the one who can help me here
It's
is
only
God.
God. Yes.
And how has that, Boniface, today guided your relationship with God? Just that experience of being in the dark, being in a place where you feel prodigal and lost, praying to God there, and now you're on this side, and you have all those memories. How has that impacted your spirituality?
Yeah, thanks. I think it's really humbled me. Humility is an ingredient that is so just very humbling to really connect even today. I can drive and see a guy in a mkokoteni and identify with that person. I can see somebody who looks really beat, and see myself. I have seen addicts, who I can see them. Sometimes I even give them some little money. I know they're going to use, but it's fine for now. I'm just giving them hope.
Yeah.
So humility is something that I gained from this. And humility is. Maybe I was dragged through humiliation, but eventually I got humility.
Yeah.
There was moments, yes. And of course, I have developed a personal understanding of who God is that is not dependent on a preacher or a personal relationship with God. It's not dependent on the church. It is a direct relationship. To this day, I unfortunately these days I have to remember God when I'm in trouble. and also these days, fortunately, when things are very good, when they're very good too, I know to thank God because I know where I come from. I have not forgotten. Maybe that is why we don't forget the dates. Huh?
True. And of course, many years later.
Yes.
When in your young life you were right here at CITAM.
Yes.
You used to come with your parents.
Yes.
And now, many years later, you're back.
Yes. Yes.
So we want to hear more when we come back. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we want to hear more about your treatment centers. We want to hear more about ARPAC and what you do.
Thank you.
And really, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Viewer, we are talking to Boniface Dirango, who is the chair of Alcohol Prevention, Addiction, and Rehabilitation Association of Kenya, telling us his story. And when we come back, we'll be hearing about what he is doing, what the association is doing in terms of making life better, creating a better culture where people don't have to deal and face addiction. It's quite a long shot, but they're doing something about it. You want to be here on the second part of Spotlight. We'll be right back after this short break.
The Asian community in Kenya has been nationally recognized as the 44th tribe of the people of this great nation.
Many of which who have already been exposed to the gospel of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Starting this January, every third Thursday of the month, we bring you Asia Testify,
where we will be listening to life-transforming stories of Asian believers who have walked with the Lord. Only here on Hope TV. Look and live.
Only God can turn a mess into a message.
I have a boy on a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I'm still preaching on the pulpit.
Amen.
Niliona mguu ya nyuma inakuja tu kunikanyaga, imenilenga tu kwa tumbo. Nikaitana tu Jesus.
I got tired of working with the x-ray papers, and one day I just woke up and decided to burn them.
A test into a testimony.
The whole community didn't want to hear that anybody is born again. Excommunicated, straight.
Bila Yesu hakuna njia.
Join Sharon Naitore Wangenye on Testify.
Katika hiyo harakati hiyo spirit ikakemewa, mimi nimeona Yesu Kristo namna hii. Kwa msalaba. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Every Thursday at 8 p.m. for a moment to grow your faith some more.
Hope TV is where you look and live, with an excellent selection of the best Christian programming consisting of local and international content of inspirational stories, talk shows, Bible commentary, youth, health shows, children entertainment, contemporary gospel music, extended times of worship, live broadcast, news, movies, drama, Christian ministry programs, and so much more. Hope TV is another quality service from Christ is the Answer Ministries, with over 45% of authentic and credible local content every week. Hope TV is a sister station to Hope FM, Kenya's leading Christian radio station, with footprints across the country. Tune in to Hope TV, where you look and live.
Viewer, welcome back. This is Spotlight, and we are talking about alcohol addiction, and very honored to be joined by Boniface Dirango, who is the chair of Alcohol Prevention, Addiction, and Rehabilitation Association of Kenya, sharing a very emotional story about his own experience. And now his experience, he has now a passion to help people who are struggling with addiction, also helping the community, the society, to be in a place where there's a preventive component. And again, do engage us on 22232, our text message line. We want to hear your views as we continue with this conversation. Boniface, very emotional. Thank you for being candid.
Thank you.
And being so vulnerable as you shared with us. Now, tell us about your treatment centers. And even the association, the Our Park Association.
Yes.
It can be Our Park, it can be a park.
Yes.
It can be
Our Park.
all that. Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us more about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, as I was mentioning, after getting clean, I linked up with a few other people that we started attending Alcoholic Anonymous meeting, Narcotics Anonymous meeting. These are support groups that help people get clean and stay clean all over the world. There are 12-step programs. They really emanate originally from the Christian moral rearmament of the 1920s. Well, one thing I noticed is that whenever I would ask guys to come for meetings with me, the guys I used to use with in the streets, they would come to the meeting, and I could tell they really wanted to get better. But when we left the meeting, and I had to leave them in town, the following day I would come to look for them, they're not there. So I started thinking that, wait a minute, if I had a home where these guys could have some food to eat and go to the meeting with me, we started talking about a halfway house with my co-partners. And a halfway house is just a shared home for people who have an alcohol drug problem, who use the safe house to look for jobs, stay clean, have an agreement around how they run the house. That is supportive. That's how we started the halfway house in 2008.
Okay.
And since then it has grown into 5 units, 3 of which are one in Kiambu. It's called the Eden Group. Eden named after Eden, the Garden of Eden. It's like going back home to recollect yourself. So
a lot of spirituality around.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Eden Halfway House in Parklands in 2008, 2009 Eden Village in Lower Kabete, 2011 we started something in Mombasa, in Likoni. In 2017 we started Diani, a high-end center. And I had thought of hopefully making it to about 100, but I realized, hold on, we don't have to set up any more news. There are so many people who've shared my vision and who have set up their own rehabs across the country. So I thought to myself, why don't we link up? This is in 2018, 2019. And in 2018, we brought all the directors of rehab centers together, and thanks to NACADA for that. They supported us to start, and we did a vision together, visioned out what we want to do. We did a strategic plan, and we were fortunately licensed to operate as an association. It's called Addiction Prevention Rehabilitation Association of Kenya. Brings together all the rehab centers in Kenya. And the core areas we work on is to support treatment centers, provide quality services, to network treatment centers with county governments and the national government, to help with the research and strategic information, and to help with the public policy development and public image about addictions. And number one, to make them more affordable and to provide availability of treatment centers across the country. So we are now close to 200 rehabs across the country. Almost 95% of these rehabs, 98% of them are privately owned. And it's just people who have seen a gap and seen that they can, a lot of them are people just like me or people in the profession, because there are psychologists, there are doctors, there are psychiatrists, there are professors who know that this problem exists and there is no services or not enough services. So we formed, we are providing close to 15,000 beds or 15,000 people that we can cover. But according to the last statistics that were done, that is not even, it's not even, it's 15% of 400,000, 15,000 of 400,000. See, that is...
If you can explain to us those numbers.
Yes.
Talking about 15% of 400,000. Some of the numbers we need to know.
Yes.
that around addiction in Kenya.
Yes. So actually tomorrow there will be another research released by NACADA.
Okay.
But the last research they did, there are about 4 million people who abuse drugs in Kenya. One drug or another. 4 million. Abuse. Abuse is not necessarily addiction or dependency. Out of this, 10% of that, 400,000 are dependent. 400,000 Kenyans across the country are dependent, who need rehabilitation services, actual rehabilitation. And this is across the whole country, in all these towns. There will always be some people you look at when you're driving past, and you can tell this person needs help. 400,000 of them. We are only capable of managing our beds, available beds, are not 15,000 actually. It is divided by 3. So divide by 4, because every 3 months.
Yeah.
So we've calculated
around 3,000.
Yes. So the beds are about that. So you multiply by 4 because the program is 90 days. So we need definitely to increase capacity. We need to develop programs that are affordable because of the gaps and majority. And actually, I think that the CEO of NACADA recently said that most treatment centers are too expensive for the average person, and that is correct. What he didn't get though is what it costs to run a treatment center. The costing of running treatment centers on average is about 500,000 to 600,000 for an average treatment center, where you have to pay rent, minimum 300,000. For any treatment center to be able to raise that kind of money, they have to charge a certain amount of money. If you go to Mathare or even Kenyatta National Hospital, NHIF pays close to 2,500 per bed per night for any client who is living there.
Because the costs. Yes. When you hear that somebody is going to a rehab, the cost is pretty high.
It is very
expensive. Now, but yet, so access for people to access the facility, it's quite limiting, if I may say, because a lot of people may not have that kind of money. So what are other options that are available for people who need treatment yet cannot afford to go to rehab? Some alternative maybe programs or alternative arrangements that can be made or that exist for such persons.
Thank you. Those are the things I really want to develop in the coming 5 years. We do have the Alcoholic Anonymous meetings.
Yes.
But they're limited in that they're only 1 hour in a day. So you have another 23 hours to engage this person who is not in a home setting. But it is very possible to develop support programs that do not necessarily involve the high cost of maintaining people in a home. So there's a module called Community Recovery Centers, where people can come between 8 and 6, attend classes, attend AA meetings, get support systems, and then go back home. So the only cost would be the cost of lunch and the cost of maybe the counselor, and if there is any medical medical interventions, the cost of that. So that will definitely bring the costs of treatment much lower. Why the costs go up is when you have to host people, and we have a minimum standard. That's quite expensive to set. Setting up a rehab in Kenya would cost you about 2 million. The requirements, all the things that they ask for, and the spacing that they ask, set by the minimum standards. So the cost of running, and Reverend, even you, if you look at your home, just how much you spend, and this is compulsory. It's not like your own house where if there's no money, you decide tomorrow tutakunywa chai na mandazi.
This is regular.
Yes,
is regulated.
If you have something set out, as in this is the menu, it's by a nutritionist, and this is how the costs are standard.
Yeah, and I would be interested for you to just say a little more about this vision that you have.
Yes.
To set up accessible programs.
Yes.
And you talk about the next 5 years.
Yes.
Having this vision, because
Yes.
I feel that we need that.
We do.
It's not a luxury.
Yeah, we do.
It is not something that we can say maybe not.
Yeah, we do.
But given the pandemic, the addiction pandemic, we need that.
Yes.
And what are the possibilities of in the next 5 years having real programs that you have set up, you and of course the association,
yes.
that visibly setting up this, I think, the community-based rehabilitation centers,
yes.
or such kind of accessible programs.
Yes.
Speak more about that vision.
Yes. Thank you for that. That's very progressive. I've been thinking through a lot of the synergies we have in the current government and what they are doing, and figuring out how I can bring in a component of rehabilitation. So, for example, we have the agricultural programs that are and value addition programs that are under the Ministry of ICT, of the Agricultural Ministry, Golana Kulalu. There's something there. So I've been thinking I can convince the current chairperson, I'm told, is Dr. Kiptoem, a reverend of the Sitam Church. I'm really looking forward to meet him. AIC, I'm told. AIC, I really look forward to meet him. And how to merge existing programs and get a wing within government on, for example, agriculture program. If I put up a serious tent within those programs, have people work within farms, learn the farming skills, while at the same time manage programs of recovery. A meeting in the morning, farm in the 3 hours during the morning, have another psychoeducation meeting over lunch hour as they have lunch, go back to the farm and work, learn farming techniques, so that they never have to pay rent, but they are working for their own recovery.
So they gain skills.
Yes. All those people
work,
who are yes,
and at the same time they are accessing the care they need.
Yes.
That's quite creative. It's very innovative.
Yes, that is one. Value addition, the same. All these value addition programs, as long as we bargain hard, make sure our presence is hard, work within government, we can get certain value additions in terms of industry where they're being set up, get to bargain to have our people work in those places, our people who have left rehab. The Universal Healthcare Program is one of the most important pillars of the next 5 years. I really look forward to having addiction treatment centers rated separately from hospitals. There's a new NHI boss. I'm looking forward to meet him and bargain with him on how they can develop a different set of requirements for us. Because right now, as it is, we are almost being rated as hospitals. And it's very difficult for us to match up, or even when we do, that's not exactly what we do. We don't, our centers are not a hospital setting. There are 3-4 components of addiction. There's a biological component, which requires a hospital setting, and some of the treatment centers can manage that. And hospital settings and public hospitals can do this. There is the psychosocial component, which we do mostly, decision-making, cognitive behavioral therapy, therapeutic communities. That is what we do. And that doesn't require medicine. It's behavioral in nature. And there's a spiritual component, which is even larger than all the 3 combined. A spiritual emptiness of people, that you will not find. That is what we need to engage the church for, and the mosques for, and our religious, and the spirituality of our humanity for.
No, that's important.
Very important.
Because talking about, the programs that you are running alongside other maybe government programs, very innovative thinking.
Yes.
And I think that can go very far.
Yes.
And I pray that it does, because we need it We need it. Now, you mentioned the church and spirituality. And be candid here. I mean, what's the level of presence of the church in that zone of addiction prevention and also curing those who are in the challenge of addiction? Just be candid.
Yes, thank you for that. I've had a history with this, so I can talk about it. One, it's important to note that the 12-step programs emanate essentially from the church. They have been adopted, but essentially emanate from the church. One of the most supportive groups is the Catholic Church in terms of providing space and support systems for the 12-step programs. One of the first rehabs was set up in Nasumbi in Kenya. Now this is Kenya. It's run by the Diocese of Homa Bay. Yes, the other church, what do you call it, Red Hill Place, was by the Raphaelites. The PCA church in Nakuru, the Basilica has
Holy Family Basilica.
All Saints has. St. Andrews, when you are neither we have meetings.
Yes.
So on the whole, I would want to thank the church very much from the bottom of my heart for the support that they have given 12-step programs and the space they have given even for. Yet there is so much work to be done, even within the church. There's a lot to be done. There's much more to disseminate, more information, more. The power of the church and the religious organizations to get engaged in this problem I would rate it like we are at 15, 20%, 25%. We could do so much more. We can engage, we can read a little more, get courses in addiction, get specialized information, get people trained about addictions, because this information is available online. The church can sponsor a few people to show up. The church is the most extensive in every community. Yeah, and by this I mean also even the mosques and the other places. They have an ability. Yeah, and I guess maybe this is why the current chairperson of IEC, current chairperson of NACADA, has been appointed. It's a very strategic move from the church.
Okay.
So because this is extensive all over the place, so if we can scale up the level of engagement of the church, the level of knowledge that they should have, and how to go about disseminating the information, especially prevention programs. Especially prevention programs, because they are science-based. They will do a lot of good, a lot. This is not a job to be left for NACADA. NACADA is supposed to be just a small unit that coordinates all this. The rest of the work has to be done by us. And you can see how many people we are losing. Yeah? Within a short time, you will see. Yeah?
You know, from biblical language, you say the harvest is ripe.
Yes.
Maybe too ripe.
Yes.
You know, maybe it's too ripe now. The church also needs to diversify.
Yes.
You know, its mission areas and include that as a contemporary mission zone where it can take its funds, mobilize its people towards, because there are people crying out for help. You know, finally, it's amazing, just Boniface, how time just goes so fast.
Really?
But I want you to just talk briefly about as we close, because we seem to be proud as a country to be called a drinking nation. You know, every time it's spoken of, it's like we're speaking it with pride. You know, I mean, maybe one thing you can say that can help us love sobriety, just become a sober nation. We don't have to be proud of the tag, a drinking nation. We can also, embrace a culture of just a sober nation. Just your thoughts about that briefly.
Oh yes, that actually made me just start thinking about it. Yes, I would just encourage the current administration, the current president and his team, and I think he's got it right, to reset this alcohol this alcohol laws and availability of it, and reduce the number of bars and reset. There's a whole program around World Health Organization safer approach. There are some tools that governments can use to reduce availability. I would think for sure that we should definitely delay the age of introduction. Not 18. 18 is too young, and they're getting even further down. That is number one. We have to move it to 21 years. Reduce the number of bars that can actually sell, not one in one constituency, that's a bit too tight, but just minimize, because we don't want this problem to go under, because it can always find its supply suppression strategies can always make the availability of substance becomes through the back door, and that is why now we start to get alcohol that is adulterated. People start dying of bad alcohol. So we need to have clean alcohol available, but in limited doses. Reduce the level of engagement, and we really need to recreate other ways of entertainment. If you see, we have been left with only two things. You are either a Christian, saved and in church and getting your identity from there, or you're in the bar. There is nowhere in between. Almost rational people who can actually go for sports. The fields have been taken away. We need to recreate those other. And for sure, we have to work at that sober nation. As sober nation, you have to rally people behind wanting to be sober, and being proud of being sober. And we need to frown on addiction and alcoholism. We need, in fact, that is the slogan for Israel, because you can't stop people from drinking. But their slogan for their Nakada there is a nation that frowns on alcoholism. Frowns, looks down upon. You see, some time ago, smoking was cool among young people. It's no longer, if you know that. They don't like smoking. It's not cool. Because of the advertising has been cut out. So this safer skill set that governments have been given by the World Health Organization should be implemented smartly, not ad hocly, and with also people who are nuanced about addiction. Yeah, if they can get engaged, people who know what they're doing, the better for the implementation of this. Yeah.
Great. Hey, Boniface. This has been quite the conversation, and coming all the way from your personal story to your mission, that you are on, and also ending now with your vision too of a sober nation. And what I like is your optimism. I like the hopefulness that you have, that step by step, this is possible. That we can become a country that frowns at alcohol. That's amazing. May it be so. May it be so.
Amen. And we have to work at it. One thing, we can pray about it, we support it and envision it, but we have to lay out the strategies and the plans that will make that happen. It has to be worked out. Yes, and it can be worked out.
I think that's a really good place to end this conversation. That yes, we can.
We can do it.
The Obama slogan, yes, we can. That's really hopeful.
Yes, we can.
And we started with from a lowly place about your own story, but we end up at a high point of hope. That this is also a zone where good news is possible. Boniface, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and grace to you. Good success in your journey towards a sober nation. Keep at it. Keep at it. And the church, definitely a big institution, I'm sure will come alongside your efforts towards this sober nation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And hope to see you again here with more on your vision.
Hope, not dope.
Hope, not dope. Amazing. Good. And that's amazing. Viewers, we've been talking about alcohol addiction and touched on other kinds of addictions as well. And happy to have been talking to Boniface Dirango, who is the chair of the Alcohol Prevention, Addiction and Rehabilitation Association of Kenya. And I mean, there's no better way to end this program than just what you've just said. Hope, not dope.
Nope.
This has been Spotlight. Thank you for watching.
Are you feeling powerless? Powerless to control your destiny, the fate of our nation, your career, financial security, and even your daily life? We are in a spiritual battle for our hearts and minds. Sometimes with little strength to be victorious.